full disclaimer, I'm no life coach. I'm no expert. I haven't written a clever book or anything like that. But I have gotten a lot of stuff done over the last few years. And what I'm going to share is what I would say is my personal style and my personal approach to how I break the things I want to accomplish down, and then the things that I do to accomplish the things I want to accomplish. And the way that I go about things might surprise some of you, and I hope that the way that I approach things helps some of you think about what you want to accomplish in 2022. So whether you're setting goals for your real estate portfolio, which is kind of the context of this event, so that's probably where a lot of you are going to apply this, or to just building out something great that you want to do in 2022 in your career or your personal life. I hope this approach helps a little bit. So this is my personal spin on the way that I accomplish things, and I hope that it is interesting and helpful for you guys. So what we get started, this is kind of how I'm going to break it down. We're going to talk about what our first priority is. And I think your first priority, what my first priority is, or what I call my basics. So we'll get into that in a minute here. Then I'm going to talk about setting goals based on habits. I think that's a really important way to set goals, and it's a bit of a different way to set goals. Now, I actually developed this presentation many years ago, and I've delivered it to all kinds of organizations and groups and at different events. And I think that the habit-based goals approach is becoming more popular. So I'm excited to see that I'm not the only one who thinks that way, and that it's becoming part of the conversation. I'm going to talk about how to plan for and keep track of using metrics your goals. And then I'm going to talk about how I achieve bigger, larger goals and the process I do to break that down. So the question that I think is the most important question to ask, and the most important question to really internalize and think about, and this is a question that I actually think there is a right answer for, is what is your number one priority? What is your number one priority? If you're the kind of person that likes writing notes, maybe write down what you think your number one priority is for 2022. What is it? Well, I'm going to tell you that your number one priority is you. You always, 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 always need to ensure that you are your number one priority at all times. Now, I don't mean this in a aggressive step on other people's backs kind of way. I don't mean this in a cutthroat way. I don't mean this in a selfish, narcissistic way. I mean this in the truest form of, you're in an airplane and it's going down and you have to put your own air mask on first. If you're not strong enough to carry the weight of those around you, then you can't help anybody else before you help yourself become stronger. So if you truly want to be an inspiration, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a supporter, if you want to be someone that can give at a high level, you're not going to have anything to give if you don't take care of yourself first, to fill up your own cup, to make sure that you can give of that cup, metaphorically speaking. So I always think about first, before I do anything else, what am I doing to ensure that I have the spiritual, emotional, and physical energy to show up as my best self as often as I possibly can? And when you're in that state, you're in a flow state. That was a really popular term a few years ago, being in flow. I'm more of a sports guy, so a lot of my analogies end up sounding kind of sportsy. So I think achievement happens when you're in the zone. But you're in the zone, you're in a flow state, you're in a harmony state. Whatever it is that you define that mindset as, you know what it feels like. You wake up in the morning and you're not tired. All of the little annoyances roll off your back. You're happy to connect with people. You're excited about the tasks that you're doing. Work doesn't feel like work. Everything just kind of happens the way it's supposed to. when you take a shot, you hit the target. That's being in the zone. That's being in a state of flow. So I got super, super into this concept about 10 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago, because I really asked myself the question, okay, if everything just kind of works the way it's supposed to, when I'm in the zone, then instead of trying to make things work, why don't I just try to get in the zone and things will just take care of themselves? And I leaned heavily into that mindset, and I started going on a journey to discover of myself what I needed to do to get in the zone. And so I developed a concept that I call basics. And I like the concept of basics for two reasons. Number one, there's the concept of basic training, which is something that comes from a military perspective. And then there's the old phrase, getting back to basics. And that was just a catchy phrase that I was able to use for myself and internalize when things felt overwhelming, when I felt anxious, when I felt like I was in the whirlwind, when I felt like there was more to do than I had time to do it. And I was starting to get overwhelmed and panicked and depressed and upset and angry and frustrated because of all of the intensity and pressure of trying to accomplish things. I'm sure that something in that bundle of emotions and feelings and experiences I just described is familiar to each and every one of you, because we're all human beings. And if you're the kind of person that's showing up to a real estate networking event to learn and better yourself, you're probably the kind of person that tries to achieve at a high level. And sometimes part of achieving at a high level involves pushing yourself a little bit harder than maybe you should have. So what are basics? Well, let's start. I want to describe basic training, because if for anybody that's ever been to the military, and I haven't, I had a client who had a military background, and he described to me what actually happens in basic training. And it's not quite like the glorified drill sergeant yelling at you doing push-ups. Basic training is really about teaching the troops how to do every single basic skill that you need to function at an organized and efficient level all the time. So for example, they teach you how to shower properly at basic training. They teach you how to make your bed properly. They teach you how to brush your teeth properly. They teach you how to put on your uniform quickly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because at any given point, you need to efficiently be action ready. You need the troops healthy. You need the troops to have a high level of hygiene, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can maintain all of your basics, well, then the army is always in the zone. Everything's sorted, everything's taken care of, everything's ready to go. And then you can focus on bigger and better things. So why basics? Because basics are like the foundation of my pyramid. You can't build higher until you have a broad, strong foundation. And so I found that whenever I was feeling overwhelmed or overloaded or overstressed, the answer that I used to lean into was figure out how to push myself harder to do more. And all that typically does is lead you into burnout faster, or it can lead you into unhealthy coping mechanisms, which, you know, can include but aren't limited to staying up too late, gapping out on social media or YouTube or Netflix, or drinking a lot of drinks and partying, or, you know, going down the rabbit hole of playing video games all the time and being distracted by that, et cetera, et cetera. You know, we can keep naming distracting activities that really in the moment might get your mind off of what's bothering you, but don't actually help you build a foundation. So I came up with the concept of basics. I said, okay, what are the things that I can do that, and here's the definition I came up with as I was going through this journey. A basic had to be, number one, something that was nurturing and or healthy. So, you know, drinking and partying was out. for an example. It had to be something that I could not lose at. I didn't want to deal with the mental impact of being disappointed by loss. I'm a highly competitive person, and losing ticks me off. And so I knew that part of my basics had to be things that I couldn't lose at, so that I always felt good when I did them. So that was kind of the next piece, is what can I do that is a no loss scenario that makes me feel good? And when I combine those two things of self-nurturing and healthy, and something that made me feel good with no risk of loss, I came up with a list of things that if I started getting into that state of overwhelm, I was out of the zone. I needed to get myself back in the zone, back in that flow state. And so I started clearing my calendar of all non-essential activities and filling them with basics. And that's kind of what I did in, panic mode. But the better I got at filling my calendar with the right amount of basics, the more I was able to operate at a steady burn all the time, so that I never really felt overloaded, overstressed, overstretched, and could systematically accomplish at a high level. So I'll share with you guys my list of basics, and come up with your own list. There's probably going to be things on this list that are basics for you guys that might not be for me. So for example, having a great sleep schedule, yoga, exercise, working out, playing music. For those of you that know me personally, I actually play music. I play the drums. I like to get in the studio and bang it out. Spending quality time with family, spending quality time with pet, reading, turning pages, reading a book, cooking, meditation, nature walks. These are my basics. Now, there's other stuff that would meet the definition of healthy, nurturing, and non-competitive, so you always feel good when you do it, on your list. There's no wrong answer to the list. It just has to fit those categories. And I found that if I leaned into my basics as my first step, as my number one priority, take care of myself. If everything feels like it's going to heck in a handbasket, typically the answer is take care of yourself and the rest will follow. I then could start getting into my goals. And so I have a male brain. And what do male brains do? They focus on one thing at once and they compartmentalize. I'm no different. That's how my dude brain works. So I started thinking about achieving in terms of compartmentalizing and categorizing things. And that, to me, has been one of the biggest hallmarks of my success, because I can cluster similar tasks and then focus on them before moving on to something else. So my particular goal categories are health and fitness, personal finance, relationships, connection with self, connection with romantic partner, business, and career. For me, those are the 6 main areas of life that pretty much anything I've ever wanted to accomplish falls into. So what I always like to do, especially if you're, if you're in a place in life where you're excited and you want to level up and you feel like this is your year and you want to do a thing, but then your brain just keeps firing off with all of these ideas and you feel like you're getting pulled in a million directions at once. Well, that's probably what your brain looks like right now. So the first thing I like to do when I'm thinking about goal setting, and again, number one, make that time for myself. Once I'm in the zone, in the state, I can start building the next level of the pyramid, which is accomplishment. I just put it all down. I just shotgun it. Every single thing that I want to think about doing, I just put it all out there and then start categorizing it. Because you can see we've got blue sticky notes, orange sticky notes, green sticky notes, yellow sticky notes, whitish ones. I would start clustering them into their color clusters, so that, and the six categories that I talked about are the 6 clusters that I'm going to put my personal goals into. Because time is a limiting factor. You only have a finite amount of time, And one of the things that I think is absolutely fascinating with the way that you use your time is you can actually make zero progress by expending 8 units of time if you go forward then backwards, left then right, right then left, backwards then forwards. If you take those 8 steps, you end up exactly where you started. And that's what happens when you try to do too many things at once in too many different directions. You're constantly moving, but not getting anywhere. And so I find it super, super critical to get those categories consistent so that once you understand what you want to do, then you can move forward. So, it's all about, don't get excited. Don't stress yourself out. Don't give yourself a hard time because you feel like you're not accomplishing a million things at once. So remain calm and start putting things into categories, because from there we can start about priority. Now, pop quiz, what should be your top priority?
Myself.
Thanks, Dream. I was just about to say, this moment in the presentation is way more dramatic with a live audience because people typically point at themselves if they've been listening. So thank you, Dream, for the audience participation. See, Zoom isn't so bad after all, people. So first thing that we're going to prioritize and schedule is our basics. Now, here's where I'm going to start turning the whole goal setting thing on its side a little bit. We've all seen SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely. Okay, this is a very organized way to start barreling towards a metric-based goal. I want to make X amount of money. I want to buy X amount of houses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to fully admit that this isn't really the way that I personally get things done. I have an idea, a vision of whereabout I want to go and kind of sort of what I want my life to look like. But I find that if I set a goal and think about a goal, all I think about is the magnitude of that goal and don't actually make any progress. So let me kind of explain what I mean by that, because you're probably thinking, well, you seem to have accomplished a couple of things for somebody that doesn't have any goals. So let me show you how I organize my goals. So again, we've got our categories. We've written out a bazillion things and we've categorized them into our pieces. Now, I typically try to think about what it is that I want to do in each category. So I might have a million health goals, fitness goals, but which one do I really want to do? I might have a bunch of personal finance goals, but which one do I really want to do? I try to narrow it down to one thing that I think is the most important for me in that category at any given point in time. And I don't really do the SMART goal thing. I don't really put the goal up as a target and then try to march towards that target and focus on the target. I don't really put on the blinders and go. Instead, I focus on being the kind of person that would achieve the goal. Now, another fun fact about me, I have a philosophy degree from the University of Alberta, arts. That seemed like it made the most sense at the time when I was going through university, and I loved it. And one of my favorite philosophers was Aristotle, a name you guys have probably at least heard. And he wrote a book called Nicomachean Ethics. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a philosophy diatribe here, and as succinct as possible. So there's two main schools of thought if you've ever studied philosophy, and there's one called utilitarianism, and then one called there's a guy named Immanuel Kant, Kant-based ethics. So it basically says that you measure the goodness of an act, if you're a utilitarian, by the outcome. So whereas Kant says you measure the goodness of an action by an intention. And so this is what we did in philosophy class. We sat around and debated all day long, because on the one hand, you can say, well, if you had a really great outcome but terrible intentions, you're a bad person. Or you can say, on the other hand, a person with really good intentions could still inadvertently murder somebody. So the outcome is what matters. We're getting into the weeds here, but somewhere in the middle was Aristotle's perception of ethics, where he said, you know, that debate on either side of the equation is tough to have because it gets into semantics. What you should try to do is imagine what you think a good person would be like, and then try to be like that person. And that one kind of really resonated with me because, again, in alignment with what I'm saying about being in a flow state and the right things happen when you're in the right mindset, this really influenced me when I was, in my late teens, reading this and thinking about, okay, well, what is a good person? That's the whole idea of ethics, is what are good actions? What are good persons? So I thought, okay, figure out what a good person is like and try to be like that person. And so that has informed the way that I look at achieving goals. I think, okay, what kind of a person would achieve this goal, and how do I be like that person? And so one of the things that we did as a Mogul team in this last year is we actually did this whole 75 hard challenge. So the 75 hard challenge is basically designed to build habits. So there's no specific outcome that this challenge is supposed to create other than building the mental fortitude to consistently do the same habits every single day. And so I was all over this challenge because I thought, hey, that's pretty in alignment with the way that I talk about achieving things during my goal setting presentation. Instead of focusing on, okay, at the end of 75 days, I need to have lost this much weight, or at the end of 75 days, I need to have learned how to do XYZ or accomplished ABC. It's like, there are categories that this focuses on. Most of them are health, and then a couple of them are wellness related. But these are all basics. These are all things that you can't lose at, that make you feel good when you do them, you're in control of them, and that you do every day. So I'm not necessarily saying you should do the 75 hard challenge. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I got some results. But I didn't, to go back a couple of slides, have a target in mind. I thought more so the point of the challenge is the kind of person who is healthy, the kind of person who achieves, the kind of person who's successful, the kind of person that's in a flow state to do important things. It's the kind of person you become by doing the 75 hard challenge. And that's what really gravitated me towards it. And, congratulations on the Mogul team, Devin and his lovely wife, Tracy, completed the challenge. Manpreet completed the challenge. Adrian, who just had a baby literally last night, holy moly. So he's not here. He's, rocking a baby. He completed the challenge. And of course, toot my own horn, I completed the challenge. So it was really cool to see some of the agents on the team lean in. So I'm just going to do a quick rapid fire of things that you can do that are more so habit-based. So for example, 1 year, I made it my goal to work out 240 times in a year, which basically equated to 5 workouts a week. I like them to be a little bit measurable. So it's a habit. So I was like, okay, I'm only going to eat 3 cheat items per week. I want to attend 1 yoga class a week, or I want to have a sleep schedule, or I don't want to drink any alcohol. Personal finance, checking your weekly budget once a week. Using a budget app, scheduling a quarterly meeting with your financial planner, or just doing the old cash budget. The cash budget, it becomes less and less relevant as cash becomes less and less relevant, but it's an idea. There isn't a goal here of save $100,000 or, eliminate $25,000 credit card debt. It's more, what are the habits? What kind of person is the kind of person that would get rid of a bunch of debt? Somebody who does this kind of stuff. So it's a different approach. It's focusing on the daily, weekly steps you need to take to become the kind of person that accomplishes these things. And that, for me, has always taken the pressure off of a specific goal, because a big goal is daunting and intimidating. Little bite-sized pieces, okay, I can nibble away at those. And nibbling has gotten me pointed in the direction and moving in the direction I wanted to go time and time again. Relationships. So this is a cool one. One of my friends, Latif, is a very sentimental chap indeed. And he really believes in investing in relationships. And him and I both read 4-Hour Workweek as a little bit of an impromptu book club, and we loved it. And so when Tim Ferriss released his Tools of the Titans book, he bought me a copy and wrote inside the cover, "Thank you for your friendship, which I value greatly, to becoming Titans together, from Latif." How do you like that? So Latif, I found out, makes a habit of, on a weekly basis, doing a gesture of friendship to one of his favorite friends. It's something he specifically and intentionally does. So I've been on the receiving end of friendship gestures from him. I think his rotation is about 15 people, because it seems about once a quarter he does something really nice and lovely. And I am in eternal gratitude for his exceptional displays of friendship. So for your relationships, one of the things you can do, on that line, figure out who your top 10 are. The top 10, this concept is that the 10 people that you spend the most time with have the most influence on shaping who you are. So if you want to upgrade who you're becoming instantly, upgrade your top 10. Spending time with family, putting time aside to have that habit. Now that I'm in Vancouver, I have a family dinner with a group of friends who are as close as family on Sundays. It's a very important habit. Regular time with friends, blocking off time to just phone people. I mean, I've got friends all over North America. Attending regular events, merging friendship with other habits. Don't do things alone. And then, a fun thing that you can try to do this year is bury a hatchet. You have a friendship that went awry or that felt a little weird or where something happened. Even if you weren't the one that was wrong, call the person and say that you've let it go and that it's water under the bridge. And always express gratitude. Letting your friends know that you're grateful for their friendship is an important thing to do, because, well, friendship and relationships and family, very important to have. Spirituality and self-connection. I'm going to start going a little more rapid fire. So maybe that's meditation, writing in a gratitude journal, prayer, nature walks. Silence. Silence is a fascinating one, especially with how easy it is to constantly fill life with distraction. Turn off your phone, turn off the music, turn off the TV, and exist in your home in complete silence with just your thoughts. If that description of an activity made you uncomfortable, it might be a good indicator that it would be a very good exercise for you to do for 5, 10, 15 minutes, an hour a day. Give it a go. There's no right answer, but when it comes to thinking about the type of person who has a good self-connection, a good spiritual connection with themselves, well, what's the kind of stuff that person would do? Just do that stuff. And again, it's not a big, huge goal of a thing. It's more so thinking, what kind of a person is that? And what are the things that they do? And then just start doing that stuff, and good things will follow. In the romance department, making sure you schedule regular date nights with your partner, or having communication check-ins, especially if you're part of one of the old power couples, as they say, where you're both super busy and have intertwining schedules. Very good idea to get on the same page with who's doing what, where, and when. Planning romantic getaways, having a daily ritual together. If you're single and down to mingle, you're not going to find a partner just sitting around on your butt. So you have to make time to do your swiping, time to actually go on dates with people. If you don't make time to do that stuff, it ain't going to happen. So it's all about building a habit. What kind of a person finds a girlfriend/boyfriend? Oh, the kind of person that meets new people and goes on dates with them. Duh. If your focus is business and career, well, identify your key deliverables. Start your day with key tasks. End your day by making a plan for the next day. Spend time with key individuals in your organization to learn from them. Schedule education. Give yourself a regular self-review. Again, not this goal, this chart here, this list isn't get the promotion. This isn't make this much money. It's not get the raise. It's not get the job. It's just, what are the things that someone who's a rock star at work do? These are the kinds of things that someone who is a rock star at work does. So start doing them. Start doing some of them. The next thing is metrics and planning. So this is where I like my analogy, and I don't think I'm the only one who uses this analogy, but I like this analogy, is putting rocks in a river. So time is like water, it flows. That river is going to flow whether you want it to or not. That water just keeps on moving. And so if you want to start to have an impact on the shape of what that river looks like, well, the river is always going to move around the rocks. And so the rocks in the river are the analogy for the things in your schedule that can't move, that help you become the kind of person who accomplishes what you want to accomplish. So when I say put rocks in the river, it's regularly schedule time for that date night. It's regularly schedule that weekly self-reflection of what work is going on. It's schedule that time for prayer. It's schedule that time for meditation. It's make sure you keep a night of the week open to go on a date with somebody new if you're serious about finding a romantic partner. Whatever it is, if you don't make time for it and put it in your calendar like a rock, then the flow of that river is just going to keep on pushing you into a state of chaos. So for me, this is just a quick glance at my calendar. And a lot of this stuff, this might look overwhelming. For some of you, you might think, oh my God, that's so much to do. But let's look at what's in here. From 2 p.m. on Sunday, onwards on Sunday is family time. Sunday brunch is in there. Personal evening on Friday. Morning routine every morning. Grocery and meal prep. Having a workout. Meeting with my key. And then there's a bunch of work-related stuff in there too. But this is, I make time for what matters to me in terms of all of the areas of my life. And that's what's in this snapshot of my calendar. So this was the first or the second week of 2021 in terms of what was in there. Now, if you really want to sizzle it up, I also do what I like to call metrics, which are, it's like a scorecard for doing all of these habit-based things. So this is, I mean, the cool thing about 75 Hard is it's an app that does exactly what this is. So, I mean, this is something that I developed many years ago, which is just a Word document where it's just a little scorecard. I just check off all of the things I need to do. And then there's some self-reflection at the bottom. So I used to print one of these out every week, put it in my duotang with a little hole punch action, and then just fill it in as my week went. And it kept me on track to what my habit-based goals are. So of course, we're prioritizing our basics first to make sure we're in that flow state. Then we prioritize our rocks, which are the things that help us get towards our goals, our habit-based goals, and we plan ahead. And there's always time to reflect and adjust. We're tracking our progress towards large goals. So it's all about focusing on habits. And to use one more analogy, when it comes to large goal achievement, you have to have faith in your system, because any large goal, if it's truly a large goal, it probably seems so big that it's impossible. For example, if you have a big financial goal for the year, for example, in real estate investing, you want to buy 10 properties. Well, if you think about the goal in the blink of an eye, buying 10 properties isn't something that happens overnight. It's something that's going to take time, and it's going to need progress in the right direction. So those 10 houses are like this road. They're off in the distance. We can't even see them yet. They seem like they don't exist. It's tough to even conceptualize them. But what you can see is the road in front of you. And to have faith in your system means having faith in the fact that if you keep driving down that road, you're going to end up where you want to go. You just need to keep the wheel pointed straight. You need to keep the pedal down, and you need to keep moving. And that's really the way that I personally have accomplished the things I've accomplished, where I don't really think about what's at the end of that road. Like, I have an idea of where I want to go, and then I move it all the way back to the little things that I can do right now to be the kind of person that would get towards that goal, that would get down that road. You know, in this basic analogy, it's the kind of person that points the car down the road, doesn't swerve, keeps their foot on the gas, and keeps her moving. Obviously, life's a little more complicated than driving down a road, but it's a really easy way to conceptualize how it is that I'm describing getting big things done by ensuring that I do little things every day. And so I really hope that that was helpful to some of you in some ways. And if you want to incorporate some of those ideas, I highly encourage you to do it because, well, that's just my unique perspective from my little corner of the world in terms of what's allowed me to do some of the really cool things that I've done in life. And really appreciate you guys coming out. Again,